Hi, welcome to Chris Cook for You Too. I'm still here in Texas and I'm going to bring you another fantastic recipe. This time it will not be from my son, it'll be from my daughter-in-law. She is going to be making chicken enchiladas. Along with that, we're going to be having beans and rice. So I'm going to introduce her now and let her bring her fantastic recipe to you. This is Tish. Hi. This is my daughter-in-law. One time you saw my son, now you're seeing my daughter-in-law. I'm going to let her bring her recipe to you. You may hear me come in every once in a while and say things, but you won't see me. It'll be all hers.
Hi. Today, like my mother-in-law said, I'll be making chicken enchiladas. How I make it is a little bit special because I believe in saving money as much as possible. So what I do is I go to the grocery store and I buy 2 whole chickens. And the reason why I have 2 whole chickens because I am doubling the recipe today. If you want to make 16 enchiladas, you would buy 1 whole chicken. But because I'm making 32, I bought 2 whole chickens. So I'm going to start by, I've already washed the chickens and I washed my hands several times. I am going to fill the pot with water. And I like to make sure that both of the chickens are covered. Now usually, I can rotate both of these chickens to where you can see them laying side by side in the pot. Now when I'm done boiling this chicken, I'm not going to throw the stock away. I'm going to make sure that I hold on to the stock because I will need this stock for the sauce that I'm going to make for the chicken enchilada. So as you can see, the chicken is almost fully covered in water. And so now I am going to put this chicken on the stove, and usually it takes me about 35 to 45 minutes to boil the chicken. I don't boil it all the way because it's going to cook some more in the oven when I wrap it in the corn tortillas. I usually put it on medium heat, and like I said, it'll be about 45 minutes, and then we'll check back, and before I make my sauce, we'll check back and go through it back. And now I'm going to go through the second step of preparing the chicken enchilada sauce. What I've done here is I have 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter by Land O'Lakes, and I have melted it in the pan. I have here about 2/3 cup of onion. Now with the single servings that I normally make with 1 whole chicken, I usually use about 1/8 to 1/4 cup. But because once again I am doubling the recipe, this is about 2/3 cup of onion. I'm going to go ahead and put that up into the butter. Pour that in there. And I'm going to add a little bit of pepper to this because that's what the recipe calls for, and I like it a little bit spicy as well. Add some pepper, and it's basically to your taste. And then I'm going to go ahead and saute these onions until they become like a clear look. You want them to be very clear and soft. You don't want them crunchy. And if you notice on the side here, I have some chicken broth by Swanson. It's one of my favorites to use at times when I don't have enough of the homemade chicken broth that I like to normally use. So you can substitute with Swanson chicken broth or your favorite brand. I am still boiling the chicken as I told you earlier, and I will use some of that chicken broth. What I do with the leftovers is I like to freeze it for the holidays, and I usually use it to make my cornbread dressing or anything of that nature for my giblet gravy or whatnot. And like my mother-in-law mentioned to you earlier, I noticed you probably have seen that there's several pots on the stove, and I have some pinto beans going here that's going to go with the chicken enchiladas and some Spanish rice. I am sauteing the onions on medium heat, and we're going to make them nice and soft for you. So that's going to be it for right now, and I'll come back when it's nice for the next stage. Let's go ahead and check our onions out. And if you can see, the onions are translucent, so they have done what they needed to do. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to cover them back up, and we're going to go over here to where we had the 2 whole chickens boiling. And as you can see, I have removed the 2 whole chickens because we're in the process of about to cut them up into small pieces. And I've also removed about 8 cups of chicken broth. Now, keeping in mind again that I am doubling the recipe, So if you were doing a single recipe, you would only need 4 cups of chicken broth. I am going to reserve this chicken broth for Thanksgiving or Christmas or any soups or anything that my family may make. If you'll come over here with me to the kitchen sink, I have the 2 chickens that have already been boiled, and I've already started to cut the meat off of it, and we're going to cut it into small bite-sized pieces, and I'm going to do that, and then when we're done, we'll come back. I just wanted to show you that these are the size pieces that we want the chicken to be. So just kind of like cube it. Doesn't have to be very tiny, but enough that where it can be tasted in the corn tortilla. Okay, we'll be right back. And I wanted to show you that I've cut up the chicken, the 2 whole chickens, into bite-sized pieces, shredded it. And so we're ready to go with the chicken. We're going to go ahead and set this aside, and we will use this as soon as we make our sauce. So now we're going back over to the pot where the onions are in there. We're going to cut the heat on medium. We have the onions on medium. And as that's warming back up, what we're going to do is we're going to take the 12 tablespoons of flour, and we are going to pour this into the sour cream. Now the sour cream is 32 ounces, so you would need one of these 24-ounce containers and a half of a 16-ounce, okay? And that will give you for the double serving. So we're going to pour the flour into the sour cream. And this can be somewhat messy, but what we need to do is we need to mix it together. And what I do is I use a whisk to blend it together. Try to get it all mixed in there. And this is going to become part of the gravy for the enchiladas. Now you can use any type of sour cream that you would like. I like Daisy, and so that's what I prefer, and that's what I use. But any sour cream works. If you're on a budget, the non-name brand is fine. I've used it before, and really you can't tell the difference in your sauce. So I'm blend it in there. Like I said, this is messy. But we're getting it going. Stirring it. Now we got it going here. So we want to blend it real good, whip it so that it's well blended. Make sure that you get your edges and the flour on the bottom. Mix it in. And if you can see at the bottom there, it's kind of whipped in real good. The well blended it is, the better, because you don't want your gravy to be lumpy. So, all right. So we got it nice and smooth. And now what we're going to do with this is we're going to pour it into the onion and butter mixture. And normally for this part I do use a wire whisk, but because I do not want to mess up my pots, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use a wooden spoon. I'm going to pour this into the onion and butter mixture. Okay, and then we are going to quickly put, what I have is some green diced chilies. Once again, this one is non-name brand. It's by Hill Country. I have 2 cans of the mild green chilies. I'm going to pour that in there. And then next, I am going to pour my chicken broth that I took off of the whole chickens into the mixture. And then we're going to go ahead with the wooden spoon. I'm going to go ahead and stir up the gravy. So I'm going to stop right here and I'll come back with you once I get back. I just wanted to show you this real quick step here. I wanted you to look at the sauce and see how it's coming along. Just continuing to stir it so that it doesn't become lumpy. So we're doing good on that. So we're going to stop a little while and let that boil down. And then while that is starting to get thick, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and take about 36 corn tortillas. It doesn't matter what kind you use. You can use either the white kind or the yellow kind. I prefer the white corn tortillas, but make sure it's corn and not flour. You want to set your temperature to 350 degrees. You want to wrap 36 of these in foil for 15 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it. We're going to put it in the oven. And by the time this is ready, the sauce should be thick and ready. And then we can go on to our next step. We're back.
Thank you.
And now I just want to show you what I've done since we've been gone. What I've done is I've taken 2 cups of the sauce, the sour cream sauce, and I poured it into the chicken, the chopped chicken. I seasoned my chicken with Goya, all-purpose seasoning, salt, black pepper, and garlic. But you can season it with whatever you want. It's to your liking and your taste, but that's what I just happen to like. I also added 2 cups of Monterey Jack cheese into the mixture. So all of that is mixed in with the chicken and it looks just like that. And it's nice and moist. Okay? Then what I did is I sprayed the bottom of my baking pan. I've already did 2 pans, well, a pan and a half of the chicken enchiladas. But I sprayed it with like an olive oil so that it wouldn't stick. I took the corn tortillas out of the oven, and what I did was I put about 1 big helping of the chicken mixture in the center of the corn tortilla. And it's pretty much what you want. Is if you like a lot of meat in your corn tortilla, then put a lot of meat. If you like a little, just put a little. Then you would roll it, and then you want the seam side down in the pan. Okay? And then we're going to finish this pan up here. And I just happen to like mine kind of not too much meat, but enough to where you can taste it. And if you notice, we have a lot of meat mixture left, and we have a lot of sauce left. So that's a good thing. You don't want dry chicken enchiladas, so you want your mixture to be nice and moist, and you don't want it dry and clumpy. That one's a little bit thick. That's okay. I'm going to put it seam side down. Okay. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and cover this chicken because I will use that later on. We will take some sauce. And let me get this. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover the chicken enchiladas with sauce. Pretty much, you just want to cover it. You don't want to drown them, but you want to cover them so that each of the enchiladas has some of the sour cream gravy on it. There you go. Then you're going to put this in the oven on 350 for 35 minutes. And once we bake it for 35 minutes, we're going to remove it. And then to your liking, you're going to sprinkle a little bit of Monterey Jack cheese on top. Put it back in for 5 minutes and take it out and cool it. Alright? So that's the end of this segment, and we'll come back and we'll show you how it works. So now what we have here is the completed chicken enchiladas. What I did is, after I had put it in the oven and I baked it on 350 for 35 minutes. I then took it out. I sprinkled the amount of cheese that I like on it, and the kind that we put on there is the shredded Monterey Jack cheese, Hill Country Fare, or whatever your preferred brand is. Sprinkle it on top, put it back in the oven for 5 minutes, and remove it, and you have it ready. I also have the remaining sauce for the chicken enchiladas, because sometimes, you know, when you cook it the day before, it can dry out a little bit. So if you have the extra sauce, you can always put a little bit on top of it to keep it nice and moist. And finally, we have it all plated up. We have our pinto beans, and then we have our Spanish rice, and then we have 1 chicken enchilada. And so there you have it. It's a done deal. And my mother-in-law, she has went to bed, so I'm going to go ahead and close out, and thank you for watching Chris Cooks For You Too. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.